Hi, Rowan. Just give us your more considered thoughts on what happened on Sunday when you've obviously watched the game back. Were you good value for it, do you think, looking back?
Yeah, I thought for the bulk of the game we were at least cut and square. Thought that first little period there were a few penalties conceded. Huddersfield put on a couple of good plays, and one of them was a bit of a sort of scrappy bounce of the ball thing in the corner there, which affected the scoreline, but probably not the balance of energy and competition. I thought it was a good hard game. In the end, it could have gone either way, but I thought we were always a good chance of winning was my feeling through the game, and then reviewing it, I felt pretty much the same way.
And just to pick you up on something you said afterwards, you said in the post-match press conference, you said we're not a great team. Did you mean on that performance, or where you think you are right now?
Yeah, not yet. More so, not that performance in general, but just how we've tracked so far. We're going okay, but we're not where we think we can be soon. So,
but you're picking up results and you're winning in different ways as well, which must encourage you.
Yeah, certainly. We've, as I've said a few times, I feel like our best games have been, pretty good, but not where we think they can be. But our worst games haven't been that bad. So there's been some level of consistency, despite, the fans and media perhaps are looking at results being the only measure of consistency, where, we've been difficult to beat all but one game out of 8. So, there's a consistency to that.
Have you got any selection issues or poses ahead of Hull?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of players that haven't been selected in recent times that are ready to play. So that's a good position to be in. We just got to work out what's the best one for Friday on a short turnaround. So we'll check in with a few guys tomorrow. But I'm happy with the contribution of everyone that's played this year has made a contribution. Has been helpful to our performance and our level of competition on a week-to-week basis. But we're trying to find the best mix each week, but also keep our squad sort of healthy and match fit as well.
Because you've got players, or you have players coming back like Richie and Nene and Ash and Mikolai made his first start as well. Have you got to accept that you will get better because of the more game time those guys will get?
Yeah, we've still got some players that haven't trained or played a lot in the team. So, we feel like there's a lot of continuity that can be gained, but also just that match hardened, being in difficult situations as we were on the weekend. In a game that could have gone either way. They're great experiences for getting match hardened for the season.
And we've spoken about this many, many times, or you've certainly mentioned it many, many times. Do you still see Rhys Martin's foreseeable future in this? I know you're smiling because it does get brought up from time to time, because he's a very good back rower, but he's in the centre at the moment. Do you feel his immediate future's in the centres?
Rhys is a good player, either position, I think. It's something that I've thought about quite a bit this week, for this week's match in particular, and haven't quite settled there what we'll do. But beyond that, I haven't given it a lot of thought. I know Rhys can play either position, on a week-to-week basis without any hesitation, and he's practiced a lot over the preseason as a back rower and a little bit at centre, but more so lately in the centre. So he's ready for both.
What about Hull, and what sort of gauge have you got on them at the moment?
Obviously, they've had a difficult time of it in recent times, but I feel they're putting a lot of energy into games. And we spoke about it this morning, that while other teams are playing with a lot of energy and they're trying really hard, that things can turn. So it's our job to make things difficult for them and at least match them for energy. And not open any doors or windows for him to have a look in.
Have you had any communication with Uncle Tony ahead of this or not?
No, I haven't. We had a few messages last week, but not this week. But we'll have a good catch up on Friday after the game.
And you probably owed them one for that round 2 defeat at Headingley. What did you take away from that could help you on Friday?
Well, we let ourselves down in a few areas there. Defensively, we lacked a bit of connection on a few occasions, and their willingness to play, as all of Tony's teams have over the years, when they see an opportunity, there's a green light to throw the pass, and they did, and created a few more opportunities than we would have liked, and they were able to execute that. So I think that was probably the biggest thing we can learn out of that game. There was a few other things that we had them under some pressure early in the game and didn't take our chances. We made some poor choices close to their line, where we probably needed to exploit some space on the edges. But that game feels like a long time ago. So it's a new one on Friday night.
Just a quick one. You mentioned after the game last week about not starting games as you would like to, but being pleased while you're playing second half. FC themselves have been blown away in the first 20 minutes in probably 3 games this year. That seems to be a real weakness of theirs. Does that come into your consideration this week in maybe who you start in terms of trying to get that explosive start, to put the foot on the throat and maximise that? Or do you have to, as you said after the game, make sure that it doesn't come to the detriment of what you're doing in second halves? Because clearly you're doing very well in the second half of games.
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. I've probably had that conversation a few times in the last couple of days, over a very lengthy period of time. I expect, every opposition, I expect to start fast every week, regardless of whether statistically that's, evident on their previous games. And I now expect us to start fast, no matter, what's been happening as well. So we'll pick a team that we think is going to start the game well, but also that serves us to rotate well and to perform well over 80 minutes. History says that you want to be able to start games well to win big games, but it's an 80-minute game as well. So the only score that really matters is the one at the end of the game, not the one, after 5, 10, 40 minutes. It's pretty irrelevant.
Just on rotations, you've obviously tweaked a little bit over the course of the season with your prop rotations, and certain players have played certain roles throughout. Do you think we can expect to see that throughout the season, game to game, depending on the opposition and the scenarios you face? Or are you still figuring out maybe who works well in tandem, like Zayn and Sam seem to do very well with each other last week? Is it a case of you at the minute still finding out exactly what's best for the team?
Yeah, but some of both of that. And also what's best for the team, this week or this month might not be next month, because form or fatigue or opposition conditions, there's lots of factors. And I think I've said it a few times in the past. I've not come from the school of thought that you have to have the same team all the time to be able to perform well, because as soon as you have an injury or a suspension or something, anyway, your team has to change. So having some cohesion, but also being adaptable is something that, we're striving to get. And we've had, varying levels of sort of pre-season involvement and preparation. So some players, are just starting to get into flight. Some are still quite away from it because they didn't start the season on time. So trying to factor all of that in and have a cohesive team, but also one that's adaptable to be able to roll with whatever's thrown our way.
How difficult are you finding it week to week, just picking the personnel in the middle? Obviously, Sam Walters didn't play last week. He played very well for Bradford on Monday. I know it's a good headache to have, but nevertheless, it must be a difficult conversation week to week, having to leave someone out.
Yeah, it is. Sam Walters and James Donaldson both performed really well on Monday. they've recovered well also, which is great. It's difficult, but it's a good position for the club to be in, where you've got players that are genuine every week Super League players, missing some games, and there'll be other guys at various times that miss the team, which is a good place for the club to be in. But we've got to play well on a more regular, closer to our best on a more regular basis. Otherwise, those selections are always going to be under question.
Sure. I think you made just one change to your squad. Jackson fielding for Leon Ruin. I think, just wondering, what's the thinking behind that change this week?
We've got plenty of fit and available forwards in the 21-man squad, and Jack's there if something happens between now and then. Jack also played, last week he wasn't in the 21 because he was playing on Friday night in the academy game. So if that was the case, I can't remember last week's 21, to be honest.
Just very finally from me, and just with a bit of a long-term cap on, you've had guys like James McDonnell who's played regularly since coming into the team. You've got Tom Holroyd playing every week. Just looking at the development of this team and those individuals moving forward, how important is this period? How beneficial is this period going to be for those guys getting this exposure to week in, week out, high quality Super League action?
I think it's showing that it's developing those guys, getting the week to week. I've spoken to both those guys through the preseason about the ability to play Super League 1 week versus 2 weeks versus, a month or 2 in a row or a season. They're all different levels of sort of achievement. There's a lot of players that can play well here or there, but the challenge is to be able to play consistently. And our job is to give them the opportunity to do that, but also to give them a rest if they need to at some point, or a reduced role to freshen up. But those two guys and plenty of others as well in our group, we can see as being a real core of a team that's going to build for, many years to come. And those guys are in the early stages of that. But, in 2, 3, 4 years' time, who knows what those guys are, where they're at. They could have played 50, 60, 70, 80 games of Super League for the club, and, the club would be in a strong position if they have.
Brilliant. Cheers, Rowan.
Thanks, Matt.
The reserves play on Friday in a curtain raiser. Could we see any of the more experienced first team squad members playing in that? Who aren't in the squad for the first team?
Well, it depends. Yeah, see what sort of team we settle on tomorrow. But it's good logistically. It's good for us. A Friday night game, and it's before at the same venue. But we'll see what team we settle on tomorrow out of that 21, and see if anyone else needs like a bit of extra game time.
Yeah, I was wondering about Morgan Gannon specifically, and maybe Durrell.
Durrell's had a calf injury. He actually got a calf injury very early in the game against Hull KR. So he's been injured. That's why he hasn't made the last 2 squads. Morgan Gannon will play some game time in reserves on Friday.
I think last week when we spoke to you, you said that Dave Fussy-Tua was going for a scan. Have you got an update on how he is, how long he might be out for?
Yeah, Fuss actually had surgery last Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it was. And that'll be a 10 to 12 week type injury instead of a 6 to 8 week, which we thought was the initial prognosis or diagnosis.
How is he? That's obviously very disappointing for him, because I know how keen he was to get an injury-free run this year.
Yeah, he's disappointed, but he's also understands that's what can happen in the game. So he's going to use this period to reboot and rebuild and come back, for the back end of the season, and bring us some energy and some fresh enthusiasm as the competition gets a little more tired. It might be a great attribute to us.
And just lastly from me, are obviously England might have to make a change at loose forward for the France test at the end of this month. Do you think Cameron Smith could be in with a chance of being called into the squad?
I have no idea about those type of things, about who's in the squad or who's in the picture. But I know Cam could certainly play against France and do a good job there. So I've got a high opinion of Cameron, and in time, he'll be in those conversations. But I'd have no idea whether now's the time or not. That'll be up to Coach Wayne.
Yeah, I was thinking with Morgan Knowles being suspended, he got a 5-game ban.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the makeup of their squad or what they're looking at there. But I know Cameron could play against France and do a good job if he was called upon.